and we will have the cars onto the circuit very shortly for our final race of the day, which will be the Dunlop Mini 7s. These are the cars that you hopefully got the chance to see down on the grid walk during the lunch break. Your chance to get up close and personal with all of them and admire the wonderful liveries that we have on these cars for this season. And of course they sat there very patiently waiting for their first race of the day, which happened just a couple of hours ago, but now we are good to go for that final race of the weekend. 3 races in total for the Mini Millias and the Mini 7s this weekend. And of course the Mini 7s will be joined by the 7Ss also. So we'll take you through how they're all going to line up. Predominantly we have Mini 7Ss, which will be towards the rear of the field. They'll have the separate start compared to the Mini 7. But again, it's going to be a nice, entertaining race to look forward to as the last few cars now work their way into the assembly area. I can see Gareth Hunt just about getting himself into position, and that's been a bit of a scrabble actually, because I think that was the car that lost the wheel on the run towards Paddock Hill Bend, and of course the wheel was on the left-hand side of the circuit, whilst Gareth Hunt pulled the car up into the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. So he's a late joiner to the assembly area, but he's made it, and once they're all there, then the marshals will be very happy to get them onto the grid and get, as we said, this final race of the weekend underway, which currently is ahead of schedule. So again, well done to all the race officials to make sure that we've got everything running smoothly and no major delays. We have had a few problems with red flags, but again, good work by the marshals and the recovery team to make sure that everything is cleared up quickly and we can make sure that we get all the racing in that is needed here on the final day of this year's festival. We do have the Mini Car Club parade lap, so if you are a Mini driver and you're still here, then hang around because you get your chance to head onto the circuit in around about half an hour's time, and that'll be a lovely close to the weekend just to see all the Minis that have made the journey. We've had, I think, 1,000 Minis in total join us here today at the circuit, so a massive thank you to all of you. I'm sure everyone's enjoyed having a look around the cars on display, and as I said, you can have one final look at them when they do a parade lap of the Indy circuit after this final race of the weekend. So cars just being started up. We now have, I think, the signal from the assembly area yet to head the cars onto the circuit. So the marshals are in position down on the grid ready to go, and once we get them onto the grid we'll run you through how they'll line up with, as we mentioned, the Mini 7s starting ahead of the Mini 7S class, the 2 classes. Just to remind you, we have the original car, which is the first ever Mini that used to race, was the 850cc Formula Mini 7, which took place here at Brands Hatch back in 1966. Nowadays we have this 1 litre Mini 7, which provides plenty of acceleration and entertainment for the drivers, and then within the Mini 7S class it's a kind of milder tuned 1275cc S-class machine, which is a bit more standard, a bit more budget friendly, and it's the introduction into mini racing where you can then adapt your car and change it to race within the Mini 7. So we'll see how this plays out. There's also a chance for the drivers to aim for the Graham Hill Memorial Trophy, which is for the leading under 17 driver within this field as well. So onto the grid they start to come, and the way the grid lines up then for this final race of the weekend is going to be as follows. We'll see number 1, Mike Jordan on pole position. His quickest time from the earlier race of 59.142 sticks him there alongside number 29, which is Damien Harrington. So they do occupy the front row. The second row then sees number 80, which is Joe Thompson, joined by number 21, which is Aaron Smith. The third row lines up with number 3, which is Ross Billison. He'll have on the outside number 73, which is Spencer Wanstall. The fourth row of the grid is number 38, which is Stephen Hopper. He'll have number 14, James Payne, to his outside. Then onto the fifth row, where you'll find number 16, which is Andrew King, and number 26, Nigel Davies. And then the final row of the 7s, without number 37, Gareth Hunt, and 20, Darren Thomas. And someone is in the wrong position. Yeah, Gareth Hunt needs to reverse, which he now does, which means Nigel Davies is missing in the 26 machine. So we're 1 light in the 7s. The 7Ss, where we will see the majority of the cars, are going to be number 717 on pole position in that one, which is Philip Anim. He'll have number 796, which is Michael Winkworth. The second row of the 7Ss will be 700, which is Matthew Ayres, joined by double winner so far this weekend, 725 Fraser Hack. So it's going to be a little bit of work for Fraser Hack to do in this race. So he is there on the outside of row 2. Row 3 then sees number 741, which is Joel Wren, and 707, which is Matthew Page. The 4th row is 789, which is Arnold Duncan, joined by 765, Callum Perfect. The 5th row of that grid is going to be 746, which is Oliver Burkitt, and 736, Bertie Willard. The next row, 711, which is Giles Page, joined by 713, Lee Pullman. Then behind them, 777, Dave Rees, and 797, Jack Vanner. He found himself in the gravel at Clearways in the earlier race, so he is good by the looks of it. He's out there on circuit, so no real damage done to that car. 712 is next up, which is John Hobbs. Alongside him, number 788, which is Rob Perry. Then on to the penultimate row of the grid for the 7Ss is going to be 748, Mal Dickinson. 733, Alex Watson, and then towards the back we'll have 778, which is Kate Fraser-Kerr, and 750, James May. So that's how the grid lines up then for this one, as the cars start to work their way around on this formation lap. The top 12, effectively, although now 11, with Nigel Davies not there, are going to be the first of the 7s, and Mike Jordan trying to look for a victory in this one. As I said, it's been very good so far for Fraser Hack in the 7Ss. He finds himself 4th on that grid for this final race, but can Mike Jordan hold on to the win in this Mini 7 race, or can we have the likes of Ross Billison, who came to the weekend here at Brands Hatch as the championship leader? He potentially has lost that lead. There was only 14 points between him and Spencer Wanstall, but the theme of this year has been that we've only had drivers kind of do the select few rounds. So the likes of Mike Jordan has done the big meetings, the likes of Joe Thompson has done all the rounds, but it's only recently he's really kind of got his A game going. He had one off weekend at Thruxton in that second race where he was a non-scorer, but since then Joe Thompson has done really well, and this weekend he's taken 2 victories, and he also took the last win at the last meeting at Anglesey. So for Joe Thompson, he is on a good run of form as it stands at the minute. Ross Billison, the championship leader so far this weekend, has had a 2nd and a 3rd, and then the other podium finishers include Mike Jordan, who got a 2nd in race number 1 yesterday, and Damien Harrington, who featured on the podium in the earlier race that we saw just after lunch. So we've had a few different people grace the podium, but it has been mainly Joe Thompson, who has some work to do, as I said, this time round from what's going to be the 2nd row of the grid. But if he can find that gap and not find himself too far back on the first few laps, then Joe Thompson is definitely going to be one to watch with the pace he has shown so far this weekend. So we'll get 2 separate grids, we'll get 2 separate starts as well, because the 7s will go off first. There'll be a slight delay before we release the 7Ss. I think everyone is present and correct. I think Mark Sims is in the right position. Do we have one into the pit lane at the end of that formation lap? Yes, I think we have, yeah. Gareth Hunt has worked his way into the pits, and we might have another one actually as well, because we are going to see potentially one of the 7S cars into the pits also. But barring that, we are going to be good to go. The 5-second board has been held aloft. In fact, we're going to have a start delayed by the looks of it. So have we lost a car around the circuit? Let's have a little look. Nothing at Druids, I don't think, unless it's something that's happened on the back straight. Not too sure, but we have got a start delayed. The reason for that, possibly because there is a car which has entered the pit lane, has in fact stopped in the pit lane. So that is never ideal, and we are going to need the flatbed for that car to be recovered. So we're not quite going to get this final race underway. If only that driver could have just turned right into the assembly area, that would have been handy, but it hasn't happened, and I think it is the Gareth Hunt car, isn't it? There is another one in the pit lane by the looks of it. So Gareth Hunt we have lost. I think we have lost one of the 7Ss as well. And we might actually now have a problem for another car on the grid, because Damien Harrington on the front row is not looking to be fired up. So the marshals are standing by to give that a push. It's been a long weekend for them, hasn't it? With qualifying yesterday, a race yesterday, and 2 races today. They do become quite troublesome in the end, but Damien Harrington will get the help of some marshals to fire it into life. And are we going to have the 1-minute board, hopefully, very soon? So the 1 minute board now does go. Damien Harrington's car is pushed. I think they're going to try and fire it up. If they don't, then no, I think they have, yes. So Damien's good, gives the thumb out the window. So thanks, marshals. They are now dispersed back to their posts, and Damien Harrington just has to keep that car going, and he'll just have to wait for Mike Jordan to go past him, then he can start the formation lap. So we have had a few issues this weekend with minis, but it wouldn't be a mini festival without those issues. So green flag now does wave, so Mike Jordan does head off. Damien Harrington will get into line behind, and let's hope, fingers crossed, that the rest of the field do get away as well. All the 7s have gone, 7Ss are on their way, and that is the grid clear, which is good. So just to reiterate the grid then for this final race of the weekend, Mike Jordan on pole with Damien Harrington alongside. Joe Thompson, double winner so far this weekend, with Aaron Smith on row 2. Row 3 then sees Ross Billison and Spencer Wanstall. Row 4 headed by Stephen Hopper and joined by Jamie Payne. Row 5 is now just with Andrew King. Row 6 is just with Darren Thomas. And into the 7Ss we have Philip Anning and Michael Winkworth, Matthew Ayres and Fraser Hack, double winner for him so far this weekend. Joel Wren is next up with Matthew Page on the outside. Then we have Arnold Duncan and Callum Perfect. The next row is going to be Oliver Burkitt and Bertie Woolard, with Giles Page and Lee Pullman next behind. Dave Rees joined by Jack Franner, with John Hobbs and Rob Perry on the next row. Penultimate row, Mal Dickinson and Alex Watson, and towards the back is going to be Kate Fraser-Kerr and James May to complete the grid we have for this Dunlop Mini Challenge, supported by Mini Spares Race for the 7s. They are just working their way with Mike Jordan at the front for this 16th race of the weekend. Most of them have been mini races. We've had a few interlopers along the way, but this final 20-minute race shortly to get back into action. We're going to actually begin, I think, around about the time we should have done, 20 past 5. We are 30 seconds away from that, so if it's a fairly quick formation lap, then we should be good to get those 20 minutes in. It's going to be a long 7S grid to assemble, of course, as we see Ollie Burkitt work his way through the final corner. Mike Jordan is, again, not too eager to get to his pole position, not as eager as Damien Harrington, who is there first, so doesn't really want that car to falter again, does he? So he wants to try and keep the revs up as best as he possibly can. The 7 grid is now formed as it should be, and then on to pole position in the 7Ss now does come Philip Anning, so he is there. Michael Winkworth will start alongside him, and then the next couple of rows come into formation as well, with Fraser Hack looking for a triple in terms of wins. He positions his car kind of aiming towards the back of Michael Winkworth downhill, whereas Michael Winkworth has his car positioned upwards, more towards the grass, which is a little bit strange, but I'm sure they know exactly what they are doing. So the warm-up lap has been completed. The final car in position now at the back. The green flag does wave, and 20 minutes of the final mini racing of the weekend is about to get underway. 5-second board has gone up and down. Red lights on, and off we go for the final time. Good start from Damien Harrington. It is the curse of pole position here at Brands Hatch, where Mike Jordan doesn't get the very best of starts. So Joe Thompson goes alongside him on the run down towards Paddock Hill Bend. Can he squeeze through into second place? He has the momentum round the outside, and yet Joe Thompson will get himself ahead now of the one machine of Mike Jordan as they make the climb in towards Druids Corner. The 7Ss are away, and Fraser Hack makes a tremendous start actually through the middle of the front row. So Fraser Hack will possibly lead on the run in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Will he? It's going to be close because Phil Anning's going to try and make that car as wide as possible. Michael Winkworth's going to try and get himself into the equation as well, but Fraser Hack, can he go and do the full blast round the outside line? Philip Anning is still just about hanging on there, and he does, because Fraser Hack has to settle for that second position. Michael Winkworth will lose out to Matthew Ayres for third place as the 7Ss turn away in towards the Cooper Straight for the first time. The leaders, though, up to the completion of lap number 1, and it will be the green machine of Damien Harrington that leads the way. So he'll come through ahead of just about, I think, Mike Jordan, who's back now ahead of Joe Thompson as they make the plunge in towards Paddock Hill Bend. So Harrington leads, Jordan leads Thompson. Fourth place will be the erstwhile championship leader prior to the weekend, which is Ross Billison. And then behind that, it's going to be the 21 machine, which is going to be that of Aaron Smith. So the yellow machine goes into fifth place. They're still side by side fighting up the road though, because Joe Thompson trying to attack back on Mike Jordan, but he'll have the outside run in towards Graham Hill Bend. There's one off into the gravel through paddock. That's going to be Arnold Duncan, isn't it, in the brown machine. Hopefully he rejoins safely, which he just about does. A few cars have to go either side of him as they head uphill in towards Druitt's corner, but that was a bit of a moment there for Arnold Duncan. Right, for the sevens, Joe Thompson is now ahead of Mike Jordan. Almost used a handbrake there to get through the corner by the looks of it, but he slides his way sideways in second place on towards Clark Curve. Mike Jordan down to third. Fourth place now for, is that going to be Mark Sims? I think it is, isn't it? So the 20 machine of Mark Sims, no, it's Darren Thomas, so it's in the similarly livery colouring of Mark Sims, but Damon Thomas is in that green machine as he heads down in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Oh, and out wide goes Damien Harrington, the back end almost swapping around on him there as he got one wheel into the gravel. He doesn't want to give up the lead also to Joe Thompson, but I think it's going to be inevitable on the exit of the corner as out wide goes the number 29 machine, but then does have the inside for Graham Hill Bend. So back for now, out front goes Damien Harrington. What they have to be aware of is if Joe Thompson gets out in front, where he has been for most of the weekend, he's very hard to catch. So they are all eager not to let him through, but eventually Joe Thompson has taken over the lead of the race. Mike Jordan has gone through at the same time, and Darren Thomas was also looking to make that green car through on the slightly lighter green car of Damien Harrington to get himself onto the podium, but it doesn't work. So back in line they all go. Ross Billison now down into fifth place. Sixth place at the minute for the number 21 machine of Aaron Smith, and the new leader, as we said, is Joe Thompson. He hasn't got the quickest lap of the race though. That has come from one of the 7S's by the looks of it, because the 7s have been fighting so hard that the 7S's have found them with some quicker lap times at the minute, and the quickest lap does currently stand with Michael Winkworth on a 60.048, but we would expect the 7s to go quicker. I shouldn't see them down to 59s before too much longer, as they work their way now through Graham Hill Bend, with the order being Joe Thompson ahead of Mike Jordan, so 80 leads 1. Third place for number 29 is Damien Harrington. Fourth place now is number 3 Ross Billison. So on this lap he has found his way through past Darren Thomas. Then behind that we have number 21, which is Aaron Smith. And then further back is going to be the car of number 38 in 7th position, which is Stephen Hopper. So that's how the order currently looks at the completion of what will be now the 4th lap. Still for the 7S's, it's going to be Philip Anning by the looks of it. He's ahead of Matt Ayres now, because Fraser Hack has dropped down to 3rd within that class. So Fraser Hack having a bit of a task this time round, I think it's fair to say. So Fraser Hack has got some work to do. He has got a buffer though over Michael Winkworth, who is 4th still in the 7S's, and then behind that we have the 741 machine at the minute, which is in the hands of Joel Rem, the man from Waltham Abbey. Sits there just inside the top 5 places as the 7S's work their way in towards Druitt's corner, and the door is almost left wide open for Fraser Hack to go through there, but at the last minute Matthew Ayres does close the door in his face. So first, second and third, as you were, down towards Graham Hill Bend with 15 minutes now left on the clock. The 7S's work the way on towards Surtees. The 7s, the race leaders overall, coming across the line once again, and we could have a change this time actually, because Joe Thompson is about to be passed surely by Mike Jordan as they work their way in towards paddock. No, Mike Jordan didn't really fancy going to the lead there. He did have the pace, but felt it was better to stay behind Joe Thompson and just maybe follow that car for a couple of laps. Temperatures probably some of the highest we've seen of the day, so cooling is still needed for these cars. So Mike Jordan not really looking to dive out of the toe and get some cool air through that car, but sits in second place as a run now down in towards Graham Hill Bend. Good fight in towards Paddock Hill Bend between what's going to be 8th and 9th in the 7S's. So that's going to be the 736 machine, which is in the hands of Bertie Woolard. He's trying to keep at bay the car behind, which is 765 Callum Perfect, the man from Hastings. So having a good dice down the field at the minute. And also you can add into that equation, I think, Ollie Burkitt, can't you? For the second time today, he has really been in some really close battles. So they continue down the order in the 7S's, as up front in that class it's still Philip Hanning that heads the field. Matt Ayres is still second. Fraser Hack is third, and fourth place Michael Winkworth just about keeping himself in the mix as well. So up to the completion of lap number 6 that they do come. Philip Hanning, what has he done so far this year in terms of wins? I don't think we've actually seen him out this season, Philip Hanning. So this is the first time we have seen that car and driver pairing. So Philip Hanning could be on for a first win of the season if he can keep at bay those 3 cars who are right on his rear bumper. First of those being Matt Ayres in car 700. Michael Winkworth now makes the move on Fraser Hack for 3rd place. So Fraser Hack for the probably first time this weekend has been off the podium. So this is very unusual. Fraser with the Adders fan club livery on the car. That was a bit of fun at Thruxton, of course, when David Addison was commentating as he does for the touring cars and also for the Minis, that meeting as well, and they've stuck with it at the Hacks. So great to see that Addison fan club logo on the side of the car. Renowned commentator is David Addison, and I'm sure he'll be encouraging on Fraser to try and get another win, maybe in his name, as they work their way across the line once again. So down towards Paddock Hill Bend that fight goes. Further back, more fights to keep our eyes on, because down in 15th place in the 7S's, we currently have that of John Hobbs. He's pushing on nicely at the minute, and he's got a couple of people for company. One of those cars just slightly smoking now. There's a bit of damage on the right front of the car, which is in tow. That's going to be Mal Dickinson, and a little bit of smoke coming from that car as well. So whether that's a legacy of the bodywork damage, not too sure, but it carries on. 7S's onto the back straight, down through Coop Straight and in towards 30s goes the top 4 in the 7S's, still being led. No, it's not. It's Matt Ayres now, isn't it? That's ahead. So the 700 car has gone through, and all of a sudden, Philip Hanning will be off the podium, because Fraser Hack goes to the inside line for 3rd place, almost made it 2nd on the inside of Michael Winkworth. Philip Hanning didn't quite like that in the 717 machine, so all of a sudden he tries to fight back on Fraser Hack as he gets into the tow across the line. We've got 11.5 minutes to go, so still plenty of this race to unfold as they work their way down in towards Paddock Hill Bend, and Philip Hanning's going to try and send one to the inside of Fraser for 3rd place, but it looked a little bit on the cards from our vantage point, but in the end he was a little bit too far back on the run down towards the first corner, so he's not going to get back onto the podium for the time being. You can distinguish the 2 classes apart with the windscreen banners that they have. So you've got the green windscreen banners for what's going to be the 7S's, and for the 7s, the overall cars, which are making their way now on towards the start-finish line once again, they can be distinguished by a what's going to be red windscreen banner, so that's how you can pick them apart. The other way is because the 7S's have a 7 at the beginning of that number, and it's a 3-digit number for the 7S class cars, with the 7s being just 2 digits, so that's another way you can pick them out from a side vantage point. Matt Ayres comes through then, still in the lead of the 7S's. Philip Hanning is trying his best to get back onto that podium. Whatever he can do to try and do it, he will try and do. Love or war, whatever it may be, he's going to try and find his way through, but still can't find his way past Fraser Hack, so he sits there just off the final step of the podium at the minute. And they've got to be a little bit wary actually, because I think coming into the equation as well is going to be that car of Joel Wren, car number 741. He is only less than a second back now, so keep an eye on what he can do. Meantime, Joe Thompson and Mike Jordan can still not be separated in the overall race lead. And again, Mike Jordan, although he gets a good run onto the start-finish line, he doesn't really want to make a move here, so he's just kind of biding his time, kind of looking at his fingernails and seeing what is happening tomorrow. But eventually, as I said, he will try and make a move for the race lead. If he has the speed to take to Joe Thompson, he might want to do it sooner rather than later, because Joe Thompson could very quickly turn this race into one which starts to open the gap out. For now, as I said, Mike Jordan is just managing to keep on the rear bumper of the race leader as they turn now in towards Granville Bend. Mike Jordan has gone for it, hasn't he, around the outside at that corner, so this was his chance to jump, and Mike Jordan feels now that he needs to get on with this, so off he goes in the lead of the race. Joe Thompson drops down to 2nd place. 3rd place is still Damien Harrington in that number 29 machine, so he is running well in that 3rd position, with Ross Billerton for company also. And those 4 now have really pulled the gap out to the rest of the field, because Darren Thomas and what's going to be Aaron Smith can't quite stick with them, so they are down there in 5th and 6th positions as the leaders go through once again. 11 laps now ticked off, 8 minutes just over to go as the top 4 work their way in towards Paddock Hill Bend with the new leader Mike Jordan. He is not the quickest on circuit at the minute because the quickest lap has gone to Damien Harrington, who just shows his nose briefly to the inside of the second place car, but Damien has done the best lap on a 59.154, and on that previous lap actually the quickest of all 4 of them was the man at the back, the number 3 machine of Ross Billison, so the championship leader prior to Brands Hatch and the double winner so far this year. He's just lurking on the back now of the top 3 as they turn again through Surtees and on towards McLaren, continue to climb uphill, and then as soon as they get to McLaren, turning towards Clearways, the road starts to drop away once again. It then climbs as they work their way back on towards the Brabham Straight, and all of a sudden, as they get to the end of that straight, they'll drop off the edge of the cliff because Paddock Hill Bend, one of the most iconic corners in motorsport, is about to appear for Mike Jordan as our race leader. So through into that first corner he now goes. Matt Ayres is the leader of the 7S class, and it's just starting to be broken up now because they are working their way through the 7s, which they did in the earlier race today as well. So that is just a bit of a problem for Fraser Hack, who now has a car between himself and the 2 ahead of him in terms of first and second in the 7S class. So Fraser Hack will want to try and work his way past the car of Jamie Payne fairly quickly, which I think he will do by the time they get in towards Druids Corner. Yeah, Fraser Hack now does go through in an overall position ahead of Jamie Payne, and all of a sudden actually he's closed right to the tail of the 2 7S's ahead of him once more, so it didn't take Fraser Hack long to get back there. So he is once again in a comfortable 3rd place with the 2 leaders, and in fact now it's the pole sitter Phil Annin who is starting to drop further back, so he is wanting to get himself past those cars as quick as possible, and Fraser Hack is now not hanging around because once he's got past that 7 machine he's now back ahead of Michael Winkworth, and he goes back to the lead of the race actually. So Fraser Hack is sending it on every single corner at the minute. I think he's got a bit of damage on the left front also. When I say damage, I mean missing part of the car because the left light has disappeared completely. So it is the final race of the weekend, so you might as well throw everything at it. You haven't got to use these cars for another few weeks. You can do a bit of fine fettling and repair work after Brands Hatch and get them ready for the next meeting at Castle Combe. So Fraser Hack is bearing that in mind, and as I said, has lost that left front light, which might be a little bit of a lighter Mini now, which might have just aided him to make his way past those 2 cars on that previous lap. Michael Winkworth is also not hanging around because he knows now that Fraser Hack has got on with the job, back to the head of the order, and wants to try and stay with him as best as he can. But it was just 2 wheels onto the grass there, which then leads you to be wide at Graham Hill Bend, which then will just slow your momentum surely on the run down towards the next corner. So a gap of around about a mini car length now has been formed between the top 2 in the 7S's, but again on the brakes that gap comes right down between the top 3, and all of a sudden actually Philip Annin, who was down and out behind the 2 7s which they were trying to work their way through, has made it a 4-way train once again. So the 7S's continue to fight as hard as ever as they work their way onto lap number 15, and is Fraser Hack going to be under pressure from Michael Winkworth and also Matt Ayres because he tries to send one to the inside at Paddock Hill Bend. They sort themselves out, and I think it stays the same order as what we had across the line. Yeah, Hack ahead of Winkworth, ahead of Ayres as the 7s work their way in towards the last couple of corners, and Ross Billison works his way past some traffic, but in doing so he has now just lost a little bit of touch to Damien Harrington in the final step on the podium. So the top 2 are pretty much gone now. They've got themselves a bit of a break. So Mike Jordan leads Joe Thompson, half a second separate those 2, with the final quarter of the race now being started. 3rd place still for Damien Harrington with Ross Billison in 4th place. Lights very much ablaze for Mike Jordan, just to say to the back marker, I am coming through, just make sure he is aware that Mike Jordan is right there behind him. Mike Jordan, who has had 2 wins this year, it was pretty much dominant wins at Thruxton, wasn't it, on the support race of the BTCC. So Mike Jordan was on good form that weekend. He hasn't done too bad this weekend. He's had 1 podium so far in the 3 races, but he could be on for his best result of the weekend as it stands. I think briefly, yeah, we had a yellow flag at Graham Hill Bend, which I saw a green flag at Surtees. I think that's for bodywork, which is in the middle of the circuit. There might have been a car there at the same time as well, but that, whatever it was, has got going again. Currently seeing the fight for what's now going to be 5th position. So we've got Darren Thomas with behind him Aaron Smith in the yellow car for this race, And then on that tail is going to be Spencer Wanstall. Spencer Wanstall came here to Brands Hatch in a good place in the championship, actually. Second, 14 points adrift of Ross Billison, but hasn't really had the rub of the green this weekend. So Spencer, I think, will fall further back from Ross, and he will definitely be overtaken by Joe Thompson after those 2 race victories he's had so far. So Joe Thompson will be the man who gains the most in the championship, and to be fair, he might actually head away from Brands Hatch as the championship leader. He does have to drop some 3 races this year. One of those will be a non-points score, effectively. He did get 1 point as he was a non-finisher. That's what you do get in the Mini 7s, but still that'll be 1 round that Joe Thompson does have to drop, which will bring him a little bit more into the equation. And especially after a good weekend, Joe Thompson will be looking to emulate himself up the championship order as best as he possibly can. He's got 3 minutes to go. Joe Thompson still just a few tenths of a second back from Mike Jordan, who continues to be in the lead of the race. Still keeping an eye on what's happening with the battle, which has been race long and also weekend long, I think, for the 746 machine of Ollie Burkett. He was in a fight there with the 736 machine of Bertie Woolard, so they continue that fight through on towards Surtees and McLaren. Michael Winkworth finds himself in second place of the 7Ss as he crosses the line with Matt Ayres very close behind him with the Napa logo on that car. Philip Hanning just working his way now, or trying to work his way past actually the 741 machine, because Joel Wren has now got ahead of him. So Joel Wren's had a good end to this race in the 7Ss, so he will try and work his way up into 4th place, which is now pretty much confirmed ahead of Philip Hanning on the run in towards Druids Corner. Michael Winkworth is side by side with Matt Ayres just up the road. That's the fight for 2nd and 3rd on the podium, and it will go the way for now of Matt Ayres as they turn their way through the debris which has been left on the circuit. I'm just wondering if that's the light actually of Fraser Hack, which has been left there. There's a light which has been deposited by someone. It's not the whole kind of front left of a car, so it might not be. In fact, it might be Michael Winkworth's light, because that I can now see is missing on the front right of that car, so that might be the one that is in the middle of the circuit and has now been run over multiple times from various minis in this race. So yeah, we'll wait and see. Mike Jordan just working his way through some traffic. Lights still fully ablaze for him. Joe Thompson about 3/4 of a second adrift, but he has now found himself with the traffic in the right-hander of McLaren, so that has just delayed him slightly. He tries to find his way past Dave Rees in the 777 machine. And for Mike Jordan, will he be heading on to the last lap? It's going to be close, actually. We've got 65, 64, 63 seconds left, so the board will not quite go out, but I think, yeah, well, they might get through about 2 seconds to go next time round, so it's going to be an extra lap by the looks of it we're going to have after the 20 minutes have elapsed. So Joe Thompson turns his way still in second place through Paddock Hill Bend. As I said, the 2 behind now have been left to their own devices, but it's still a good fight going on for the final step on the podium. So we've got the battle between the 7Ss, who are now a lap down, but it's for 3rd place in the 7s, which is well and truly on between what's going to be Damien Harrington and Ross Billison. Ross just needs a consistent weekend, really, which he has had, and just needs to keep picking up these points to stay in with a shout at the championship. He's going to try and look to the outside of Damien in towards 30s, which doesn't work, and now they've got the small matter of these 2 back markers to work their way through, which they do. So through goes Damien, through will go Ross Billison, I think, on the exit of Clark Curve. Still can't quite get himself past, can he? He's kind of willing that car on as best as he possibly can. They do get the checker flag this time, because we were just within the margin of the time running out. So Mike Jordan goes through, didn't get the last lap, but they do get the checker flag this time. So Mike Jordan takes the final win of the weekend. He picks up his first win of the weekend as well after a double for Joe Thompson earlier on. He comes through in second place. Third place goes the way of 29 Damien Harrington. He gets the final step on the podium by half a second. We'll come back to the rest of the order very shortly, because the 7Ss are about to come through to take the checker flag as well, and it will be Fraser Hack who takes the victory, just ahead of Matt Ayres, who we're currently looking at on our stream. He will go through across the line in second place behind Fraser Hack. Third place goes to Michael Winkworth. Fourth place in the 7Ss to Philip Annim, and Joel Wren does go back behind him on that last lap to finish 5th in that 7S class. So the top 10 as follows: Mike Jordan ahead of Joe Thompson. Third place to Damien Harrington with Ross Billison behind. Then we have number 20, which is going to be the car of Darren Thomas, isn't it? Yeah, he gets ahead of Aaron Smith. Spencer Wanstall comes home in 7th. 8th place goes the way of number 38, which is Stephen Hopper. And then behind that, the winner of the 7S's, Fraser Hag. And Matt Ayres completes the top 10, so a lovely way to end the weekend with the Dunlop Mini Challenge, supported by Mini Spares with the 7s and 7S's. It was Mike Jordan with the victory ahead of Joe Thompson, just to classify that. Damien Harrington was 3rd and also the quickest man within that race with the fastest lap. Ross Billison comes home 4th with Darren Thomas, Aaron Smith, Spencer Wanstall and Stephen Hopper inside the top 8. Fraser Hack was the first of the 7S's with Matthew Ayres, Michael Winkworth and Philip Annin down in 12th position. Behind them, Joel Wren and Callum Perfect. Jamie Payne completed the top 15 with Andrew King, Matthew Page, Ollie Burkitt next up. 19th place for Giles Page and Bertie Woolard. 21st for Arnold Duncan and Dave Rees next up. Jack Vanna got to the end in that race with Rob Perry coming through in 24th position. Then we saw further back from them in 25th and classified as a finisher Mal Dickinson. John Hobbs was in 26th, Alex Watson was 27th, and Kate Fraser-Kerr came through in 28th place. That was the last of our finishers for that final race of the weekend. So great way to end the Mini Festival for 2024. We do have coming up for you the Mini Car Club parade laps. We've got the show and shine cars, which are already making their way down the pit lane, ready to go onto the circuit. We have an array of cars who have been here with the display clubs today over there on Colin Chapman Way, are already lined up ready to work their way onto the circuit as well. Just need some of the vehicles to be ushered off the circuit in terms of the telehandlers and recovery vehicles, and as soon as that is clear, we will have the cars onto the circuit for the final bit of action today. So do enjoy all of that. We will have a podium, I think, off air for the Mini 7s. Those drivers will make their way down to the podium in due course, but we just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been here this weekend. Thank you for coming along, and hopefully you have enjoyed the second day of action, but the main event for the Mini Festival for this year. It's been a great day and some fabulous racing out there on circuit.